Hey Joe, it's great to have you back on. Really appreciate you making the time for the recording today, after our chat last week.
Yeah, no worries. It's always good to, get in the studio, chop it up a little bit, and
Mhm.
hopefully we record some good sound bites, get a good episode going for you.
Yeah, awesome. Our audience would love to hear more about your journey and what you're seeing shift in the industry, and then maybe where you're heading next with Digital Union. All right, so Joe, your title, Chief Organizer, really stands out in the agency world. I feel like, where it often feels like chaos. What does that role actually mean for you day to day, and how do you keep everything humming?
Yeah, right. Obviously, the title's a little bit of play on words with union and organizer, right? Going together. I don't know, maybe some of our audience isn't old enough to remember when a lot of people were members of unions, but the organizers are what, kept the union strong. When I started the agency, I didn't want to, give myself the run-of-the-mill title of founder, CEO, president, even though I'm in fact, all of those things. But yeah, I think for me, one of the things we pride ourselves on at Digital Union is staying organized and
Mhm.
communicating with clients. Because if you talk to a lot of people out there that have worked with agencies, right? One of the common complaints is that they don't find that their agency is very responsive after the initial sales process, right? So there's an agency leader, an executive, or someone that's very rah rah and promises the moon, and you know, is there up front, and then as soon as the onboarding's done, it's off to some junior mints down the hall that's just learning how to run Google ads or Meta ads or email marketing, and they rarely hear from the founder, the agency leaders. We like to pride ourselves on removing the chaos, as you mentioned, and just making sure that there's good communication, and that projects and deadlines and goals are all communicated and hit on time.
Yeah, awesome. I was really struck by your manifesto that I saw online, especially the no fractured tactics bit. I feel like it's a breath of fresh air. How did you get your clients to really buy into that holistic type of vision when everything else was just, chasing the next shiny object?
Yeah, I mean, we can all kind of be a victim of, right, just wanting to grab that next shiny thing that's out there and move the needle for our revenue this month, this week, whatever it takes. But for us, really, the way we like to approach things is obviously having a good solid foundation of understanding the brand before we begin anything. In terms of, executing the digital marketing, the first thing we like to do, and I enjoy more than anything, is just really mapping out a strategy roadmap. So you can say, hey, over the next 6 months, here's how we're going to bring everything together. And so a lot of times you'll find either agencies only specialize in one thing, right? We just run Google ads, or we just do email. And there's nothing wrong with niching down and just having that expertise. But we feel that most organizations need a big picture strategy. And in today's world, right, it's not just email, or it's not just meta ads, or not just, influencer marketing. You really need to tie all these different channels together to give them lift. So we like to just kind of map out how, hey, if we build your brand this month and a website next month, and then we bolt on your email that matches the voice and the brand, and then we develop campaigns that are going to drive new customer acquisition, and we get the creative assets and the landing pages and everything to tie together with that stuff we've already built, and then we can go into whatever that next channel is. But that building that cohesion over a period of like 6 months ends up just making for a really strong structure that where all these, like I said, all these different customer touch points and channels have just kind of weaved together to give each other lift. So that's what we mean by not building out, fractured.
Yeah, you guys do such an incredible work building those brands, I would say, based off of what I've seen on your website. What would you think is the biggest challenge in translating like a client's vision into that kind of deep, consistent strategy over time?
Well, I think we get a lot of buy-in just by collaborating with the client and really understanding what's at the heart of what they're trying to build and what their vision is, versus just thinking, hey, we know what this brand stands for, or we know what it would look like if it was ours, and imposing that. We make the whole brand development process a collaboration, but at the time we get to the end of that and we have a final set in stone, brand Bible or other brand development document, that we all believe in that, right? That it's not just one person's opinion, but it's something that not only is the founder, collaborated on and has, total buy-in on it, but that we can then get all internal and external stakeholders to, sit with that and work with the same concept. There's no gaps in the program or inconsistencies out there. Everyone's working off of kind of the same vibe.
Okay, that's great. That's great to hear. Looking at the industry right now, what's one major shift you're seeing in particular that's really impacting how brands connect with their audience?
I mean, it seems like there's shifts happening all the time, right? We went through a major shift when Apple rolled out their privacy measures several years ago. That really was a big shift in tracking. A lot of brands in our space use meta ads for new customer acquisition, and we won't get into the nuances or go down the rabbit hole of the meta algorithm and the changes with Andromeda that really kind of took root last year. But you've just got to, pay attention, stay on top of it, and adjust, because the tactics that worked amazing a year ago or 3 years ago just aren't going to cut it anymore. So, now it's just really producing a lot of assets and just having a lot of stuff available to test. You can't just, back in the day, right? You would just write up a creative brief and do the photo shoot and like run that for the year or for the season and stick with it. And now like you have to have such a variety and just constantly keep producing a variety of content, that I would say that's a major shift. But then, the obvious one is how is AI affecting our world of marketing? And there's just so many tools out there, right? It can feel a little bit overwhelming. It seems like we get bombarded with propositions from all this technology to implement. But I would say for most brands, it's okay to embrace AI from a productivity standpoint. We just don't want to have it become a crutch in terms of creativity. And I think there's still plenty of room in this world for, the human element, the human mind and creative spirit to continue to guide the direction and the personality and the vibe of a brand. I think there's definitely a reason to explore the technology and how it can be adapted to fit your organization and boost productivity.
Yeah, of course. It's not, AI is not there yet in terms of creativity. It's still, a software at the end of the day. But
Yeah.
yeah, Meta Ads
And
has been
I,
around for a long while. I think like since the early 2000s. What has changed from then to now? How long you've been using Meta for?
Yeah, so I mean, I wasn't an early adopter. I probably missed the gold rush years. I think we're in kind of the mid-teens, where
Yeah.
you could pretty much just, people were really getting into social media, and it had expanded beyond the, stay in touch with family and friends original concept. And so you could introduce products there, and the targeting was very precise, right? Because people had given so much info to Meta and they didn't have the privacy restrictions. They really knew exactly what you were up to or what you were into at the moment. So targeting people was very effective, and the return on investment there was extremely high. And that continued into, I don't know when it was, 2021, maybe 5 years ago. iOS, whatever number it was, 14.2 rolled out, some pretty strict privacy measures to kind of stick it to, Apple was trying to stick it to Meta, and it has, changed everything. So now we go
Mhm.
from trying to be very precise in our targeting with interest based. Mostly, obviously, you can still target by age and geography and gender, but now it's just the creative, right? So if
Mhm.
I've got a product that appeals to male and female, let's say I'm a sportswear brand and I've got, a men's and a women's line, it's like, all right, we'll put out a bunch of ads with women in it, and the algorithm will find the women that like that style, right? And then vice versa, you do it over here with men. you don't even have to tell it. Like it knows, okay, that's a male ad that's clearly intended for a male audience or vice versa. Same with age, right? We could put a bunch of Gen Zs in the ad. It's not going to show to boomers or Gen Xers. So it's really just about knowing your audience and generating a variety of creative to make sure that you got your bases covered for not only the audience, but where they are in the funnel. And we know that, certain types of creative work well for top of funnel awareness. And then, as you move through engagement and try and get to the conversion, that you just produce those different types of creative. The algorithm will figure out like where that buyer is in the journey and give it to them. So in a lot of ways, it makes it easier. You don't really have to have all this like, well thought out structure to your ad campaigns. The algorithm does a lot of it, but sometimes you just feel like you're flying blind, right? If you remember the good old days when you really had very precise targeting. So I'd say that's the major shift. And, there's plenty of meta ads buyers out there that, may have more insightful or different opinions. But in a nutshell, that's kind of the way we explain it to our clients.
Right. It's more of a numbers game. You have to put out as many ads as you can and collect the data and then use those winners that you found. That's kind of the name of the game, right?
Yeah, and then just keep refreshing and keep
Yeah,
going
and
and
just
keep going.
keep
But yeah,
optimizing. Yeah,
that's it. That's
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 pretty much
a
it.
week or a month in the life of a media strategist slash, the technician part's less
Yeah.
important than the strategy part these days.
Okay. And on your side for Digital Union, what's working really well for you guys when it comes to bringing in new clients? Are you guys mostly referral based, or do you guys have a like a specific system nowadays? Everyone has a system or a funnel for finding those high performance lifestyle brands that you love to work with.
Yeah, yeah, right on. Well, I would say, fortunately, we're pretty busy. It's mostly referral traffic. I would say on one hand, it's great when you can look at and just really connect with the people behind the brand and be like, yeah, that's someone I really want to work with versus like, what are they selling? Am I an expert in that? Or do I want to be their fractional CMO because I think the brand's cool, the product category is cool. For us, it's a lot of referral, and then if we find that connection, I think that's for us the most important basis for building long-term successful client relationships. But yeah, there's so many. I mean, I probably get hit up 3 times a day for lead gen experts with the perfect system to develop, bring me countless calls per week or per month. It's incredible how many of these one-man bands that have these systems are out there. Getting ready to build something like that later this year. We've got a specialized service we're going to roll out. And so I'm looking at, is it something that makes sense for me to just build out internally with our team, or do we hire, that expert that's got a tried and true system and plug into it? But a lot of it's pretty annoying. You can kind of see it coming from a mile away in your LinkedIn inbox, your emails, your texts, your phone calls. And I don't blame people, right? It's all about you got to do your outbound outreach to get new clients coming in. There's nothing wrong with trying to build your business that way. But
Mhm.
some people are really good at it and genuine and spark a connection, and other people it's like, what are you guys doing? You gotta send
Yeah,
a
you can
million of
tell.
these
You can kind of
messages
snip them
out.
out. I totally agree.
Yeah, so
I get
we
them all
we
the time
haven't
too,
thought.
and it's like I'm in the business like you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
So to answer your question more succinctly, we mostly rely on referrals. We're not opposed to building out, a system. I don't claim to have cracked the code here by any
Yeah.
stretch, but it's interesting as technology has the ability to, do stuff at scale, right? Like we used to
Hmm.
just dial the phone, and how many phone calls can you make in a day? If you're lucky, if you
Yeah.
can, you make 50 phone calls in a day, that means you're pretty active. And, you get these systems that can send out literally thousands of messages if you want. So volume's interesting, but if there's no connection there, what's the point, right? But yeah, we are building out a service where, there's a full integration now between Shopify, which is where, all of our e-commerce clients sit in terms of platform, and OpenAI with ChatGPT, fully integrating and having, really that just be a new channel, a new sales channel. And, there's a lot of overlap with old school SEO and getting visibility in LLMs or these AI chatbots. but there's also, some new nuances and the data layer for your product listings, the copywriting for your product listings, and other pages and information that you can have present on your website, as well as, those third-party references that LLMs will scrape when they're trying to come up with the best answer to queries. So we're just trying to help Shopify merchants, regardless really of vertical, make sure that the data layer and the copywriting on their website are fully aligned in a way that makes it easy for LLMs to read that and make clear recommendations to whoever's on the other end of that query, that consumer. And even in the early days of this type of integration, the data is really clear. When people go to, we'll just say ChatGPT, and they get an answer, they trust it way more than a Google search from the old days, right? In the old days, just being a few years ago when we didn't have AI. So, the click-through rate, the organic search was like the conversion rate was X. It's like 4 times higher when people come from a referral from ChatGPT versus just a standard Google search. So we want to help those clients, capture that high intent, high tendency to convert traffic. So that's something that we're going to kind of roll out here later this year.
Okay, that's really cool. So you would say that that might be like your biggest non-billable headache that, eats up your team's time lately. So like the reporting, proposal drafting, everything you just told me, and just keeping up with all the client comms.
Yeah, I mean, we try and keep proposal drafting streamlined, but it seems like, there's always some back and forth that makes it into something more complicated than it needs to be. I'm looking at adopting a tool that kind of helps streamline all of that. And then, yeah, reporting used to be more time consuming. Fortunately, now there's some really good AI tools that can just scrape and analyze your Meta Ads account or Google Analytics, or we'll build. I have a data scientist that can build, custom dashboards that can integrate all the different data sources that we need and create kind of that streamlined CEO dashboard where just really the metrics that the business executives want to follow, not maybe a lot of data. Like if you look at Google Analytics, for most people, it's hard to really understand what's going on with your business. But if you can shrink that view to the dashboard of key metrics, that can really streamline reporting. So I'd say reporting is one thing that's a lot easier now than it used to be.
Right, right on. So looking ahead, where do you see Digital Union in the next 12 months? Are you guys focused on expanding your client roster? I know you mentioned that you were pretty booked out for the next few months, but have you thought about maybe going even deeper with your existing services?
Yeah, I think that right now we've got a pretty good team, and that we execute quality work on time, and the communication, everything's pretty smooth with clients. So happy with where it's at. But yeah, I mean, it's always fun to find that juicy new client out there that's doing good stuff with cool products that you feel you understand, and you can, anytime you can bring value to someone's business, right? It's kind of exciting to dive in and help them hit their business goals. So we'd definitely be open to, finding a couple more clients, and, especially in our space that we prefer, right? In the greater sporting goods space of whether it's action sports or endurance sports or outdoor category. We'd love to bring on another brand or two and just, help them grow. So I would definitely, be excited about that opportunity. And, we've got a pretty good internal system. So when we do need to grow and hire new people, I feel like we've gotten to a point where the onboarding and training of new internal staff as we grow is also pretty streamlined. So none of these things happened overnight, right? There's a bit of trial
Right.
and error over a period of years, but I feel like we've gotten to that point where as an organization, we've got systems in place that do make things, we don't have a ton of growing pains when we do expand.
Okay, awesome. So looking at today versus when you first started with your brother, what's one piece of advice you could give our listeners who are just starting out and building out their own businesses?
I would say, especially from the agency side, I think that, we talk to our clients about the importance of social media. We build social media strategy. We help them do the analytics and all that. I would say that it's still a huge opportunity for agencies, and to have a social media plan for the agency itself in place. Really just put yourself out there in a genuine way and just educate your audience, like give and give and give. And eventually people are going to notice that and respect that and want to work with you. So I would say don't disregard or ignore your own social media strategy. I'd say that's one of the best ways to just build up respect and authority and thought leadership, and get, you don't have to produce a podcast and drop an episode every week. I mean, that's an amazing endeavor, and I love seeing people build their podcasts up, but just even the 1 minute video a day on TikTok or LinkedIn or whatever, or all the above, your Instagram, getting stuff out there that just, shows people who you are and how you think and how you help your clients grow. I would say that's a pretty powerful thing that I wouldn't sleep on.
That's some pretty good advice. I'm going to take up on that myself.
Yeah, right on, right on. I mean, you got to have, everyone's going to be checking you out behind your back, so you got to have a
Yes.
decent website. You want
All the moving
to,
parts have to be looking good, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta have the website and the social media, and then yeah, it's in the sales process, like we touched on a little bit, you've got to keep that streamlined. So the last thing you want to do is be on like five different qualification calls where the client's just talking your ear off and trying to get information out of you, and they're not really serious or they don't have the budget or whatever, right? You got to just kind
Hmm.
of shorten the sales cycle and just, be like, all right. I think I've given you everything you need to know to make a decision. Like, are you in or you're out? I'm not going to chase you. So we've also gotten better at that, I think. When you're new, it's easy to just want to, chase and kind of,
And
oh,
do
it's
it all,
like
right? You're like, I
yeah,
can do everything for you. Yeah.
yeah. And, we do have pretty expansive capabilities, but yeah, you do kind of have to realize when you're just not the right fit for their project or their brand or whatever they've got going on. So it's just acknowledging, right, quickly, like, where you can really help bring value and help businesses grow, or where it's not a great fit, right? And like, why waste your time on that?
Yeah, of course. All right. And this is a question I like to ask at the end of every podcast. If you could magically solve one major operational challenge or something that's been challenging lately that constantly pulls you away from your everyday strategy building, what would that be?
Oh boy, I don't know. Get rid of email altogether. Seems like, I don't know. I mean, I'm guilty as charged, right? It's such a distraction. Like, it's just all day long people are emailing you. I've got multiple email inboxes. Figuring out I probably need to just figure out a way to schedule my day where there's just a few couple windows where I deal with email. That is a problem. It's been around for a while and I haven't figured out how to solve it. And so if someone out there knows how to do that, please let me know, DM me and let me know how to do that. But no, I think we're always trying to improve kind of internal processes.
Hmm.
Been adopting some things recently where um, getting from client request to executing and having all the information needed to execute the task.
Hmm.
In the past, it's been the client calls you up or they send a vague email and it doesn't have, and then it's like, all right, you go back and forth and you finally get it. And then I
The back
enter
and forth.
kind of
Yeah.
the task for the team member in our project management software. All the info goes in. I try and be complete, but then they still don't necessarily get it. So we're trying to streamline that process. Haven't fully figured it out, but basically we
Hmm.
have a request form. That request form, if it's filled out properly, goes into Airtable. All the fields are there. I get to look at it and be like, okay, we have everything we need, and then assign it to someone in Airtable, and that feeds directly into the project management software and pulls all those fields and files and data into the project management software, and then pings them that they've got something new to work on. So just trying to streamline that whole process, but it's really about, training the clients to plan their business and understand, what info we need to actually efficiently execute. So that's kind of one thing that I'm focused on right now in terms of, just trying to make things run smoother.
Right. Of course. Yeah, I hear that all the time. The emailing takes up a lot of your time responding and,
Yeah.
clearing things up, or they forget to add, a certain detail. It's constant. But Yeah, so Joe, this was an incredible episode. Your focus on building brands and focusing on your clients is exactly why you guys are winning from, my point of view.